right. It's so brilliant what you just said, And this is one example for this heart dialogue I'm doing. It's like I would people ask um, to go into their hearts and ask, okay, God, let me feel what's the difference if I'm trying to be a good person, you know, and how does it feel in contrast to that if you give me the strength to be a good person? I let people ask, okay, this desire to be a good person, each of one has it, even serial killers,
Yeah.
Even serial killers say, okay, try to be in some way good.
Yes. To look good.
And
Yeah.
like this is also the reason why you cannot get rid of this desire, because it's from God. So this is one thing I'm teaching, is like everything you cannot get rid of, it may not be a block, it may not be a problem. The reason may be we have to investigate because it's from God, and then you cannot get rid of it. So God is this wish, this desire in my heart, this longing to be a good person. Is it from you? And then usually people respond, yeah, the answer was yes. So now is it even my duty to try to become a good person, or am I already a good person, or am I already good in your eyes? And God will reply, in my eyes, you're already good. I made you good. I didn't make you evil.
Yeah.
When I asked God, did you create the devil? God said, no. Why would I? It's complete nonsense,
Right.
So I don't have to resist, like all these ideas, there's these temptations and so on from the devil and the evil. And God said, no, I didn't create this. This is not real. This is just BS. Okay, so if you created me good, then it's not my duty to try to become good, but it's already the case. Now, can you show me how to live from that knowledge? And then everything is being shown, No more doing, no more wanting, no struggling, no striving, nothing. It's just an ongoing inquiry. Okay, how does this work if I'm already good? And everybody can feel it. I don't know whether you feel it as well. Like God says, in my eyes, you're already good.
Yeah.
You couldn't be better. God says you couldn't be better.
Yeah.
You're flawless. What I'm actually doing, if you go back to this diagram, like I'm working with people from the inside out. I'm not trying to get into heaven and work our way into heaven, but to start right in the middle, in the sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
And realize, okay, we know just very, very tiny little bits, we have just glimpses, but it's there, like the innermost circle of a tree, which is still innocent but also fragile and vulnerable. And then we work from the inside out, just the opposite way. And let everything being replaced by God's will.
Yeah. Like an organic kind of process. And well, I mean, why does Jesus say kingdom of heaven is within you if it's not within you? So I love that. And I love the idea of the difference is how do you want to make me good rather than how can I make myself good? Or because I can say, oh, I want to go be a good person. I want to be a good person, but I could be just saying that because I want everyone to think, what a great person he is. Like
Right.
Curtis is such a great person. And I want to use that. That's different than saying, I want to do your will because I believe it's really good and I want to be useful to the world. Those are two totally different things. And it sounds like what you're describing is rather than one, striving for myself, or two, being sort of crushed by guilt into doing it. Like, oh, you're going to think I'm bad, so I better turn good. Neither of those are like the way God wants you to feel, I wouldn't think. I think that the way that God would want us to feel is, I love what's good. Like, God can give you this love for what is good, because that's who God is a love for what is good. And then you're trying to go and be a cell in the body because you love the impact that has on other people. Like, that's heaven. Being afraid and I feel guilty, so I better turn good, or you're going to punish me. That's not love. Like, that's not heaven. And also saying, I want to, let me go and be really spiritual and really good so that everyone will see how much more spiritual and good I am than them. That's not heaven either. Heaven is this, like you're saying, it's this innocent desire. Swedenborg talks about how heaven is wanting to do good for its own sake. Not because it will make you look good or because you're afraid of punishment, but because the goodness is good. And same thing with pursuing the truth, just because it's the truth. And that sounds to me like, okay, we're just looking for the reality that's in there and letting that take the wheel.
Right, perfect. There are many teachings which state that everything is upside down. Like A Course in Miracles states that, everything is upside down. And also in the Sufi tradition, it's often said, everything is upside down. And like, for instance, now there's this longing inside of us to be a good person. And then if we ask, is this my longing, or is this actually God, you calling me? So this means if God is calling me, and this is God's will, there is nothing apart from God's will. So if I ask God, do you need my help in this thing in any way? Do you need my help in order to become a good person? I mean, what I hear is God will say, no, I don't need your help.
Okay, I know what I'm doing. Yeah, no, I don't need. It's like if I'm a kindergartner trying to help Leonardo da Vinci paint a painting, like he knows what to do.
Yeah. So actually, I don't have to do anything, and this is like for me like in Taoism, this Wu Wei, doing without doing. Just like you said, like allowing that God acts through us.
I think allowing, like you said, the allowing is the important thing. That, because I think that people have this call to be good. Yeah, but you can reject that. You can say, I don't care about being good. I'm going to get so caught up in materialism, self-centeredness, whatever, that not thinking about my fellow human beings, that you can do a bunch of harm with your life. But no, you can't. I'm going to make myself good. But as you can allow God to do what He does. That I feel like that's for me that's the difference between me and me 20 years ago. Is now I will try to allow God. I can at least know enough to say, oh, can you do this? Instead of just ignoring that, or I'm going to do this. Just that simple thing, like, hey, can you help me out with this? That's my whole job, is like remembering to allow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what we're talking about also reminds me of this book title. What is true Christianity? What is true religion?
Yeah.
Because that's what I meant. Like, everything is upside down. We want to become good. We want to follow the 10 Commandments. We think we have to do this and this rituals in order to. And this is all of this, which has been shown to me, this is not what true religion is, true Christianity is true.
All right, I would love to, Marc. Yeah, well, you said, yeah, let's do it. I'd be happy to be part of your conference. Thank you.
Actually, many things that Christianity has been doing, or the Buddhists or Hindus and so on, it's not been completely off. just a tiny little bit. But if you're just a tiny little bit off, it's like in soccer, it's not a goal. It's
That's right. That's right. Goalpost, which is actually, it's like worse. It's worse than if you missed by a bunch, because it's like, oh, I was so close to getting that goal. I think you put it well. Everything's upside down. When Swedenborg wrote his book, he wrote a book called True Christianity, and essentially throughout that and throughout his whole spiritual works, he's saying that with religion, everyone has everything upside down. That we think that the real so to be religious means I go to church and I go through these rituals, and that's what makes me a Christian or makes me religious. But he's saying that no, the life of religion is to look to God and allow God to do what's good through you. And all those other things, worship, rituals, the kinds of things we associate with religion, that can support your life of goodness. Those are useful tools for a lot of people. If they go into their church, it can help remind them of the existence of God and the power of God and the beauty of God. But that's not what makes religion. It's just like sort of the box religion comes in. Actual religion is just what we've been talking about.
Yeah, and the real danger is believing. Because the things we're talking about now, why it works so well is because every person, whomever I ask, what is the answer you hear in your heart? They get the same answer. I'm doing this sometimes with 300, 400, the record was like 700 people all at once, and they all get the same answer. So It's not believing, it's knowledge, and it's not our beliefs or opinions, but it's God's wisdom. And the danger in my eyes is to believe something and not being honest, truthful, and say, I don't know. Right?
Yeah.
And this is what maybe this is one thing Swedenborg is talking about. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Like true Christianity is to be humble and to say, okay, show me, guide me, help me, and not I believe this and I think I know this. This is this is not the real deal.
Yes.
It's so important to be honest and say, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know.
There's a quote from Swedenborg you might like. He says, "It is wisdom to recognize that what we know is nothing compared to what we don't know."
Good.
And that one of his major critiques of religion and Christianity was that it had placed all of its emphasis on faith,
Yes,
and rather than love, and that actually he said that the Christian church was dead. That by the time he was writing, it had died because it had, not in every single person, there's plenty of people in whom it's alive, but overall, because it had placed all the importance on faith, and not even faith, and a faith that you'd never even examined rationally. A faith that you just said, well, the church tells me to believe this, so I believe it. Rather than, as you're saying, asking questions, trying to figure out for yourself, do these ideas make sense? To place all the emphasis on the faith and none of it on love, when actually love is what religion is. And the faith part of it is just supposed to be the tools that direct you into that love. He actually, Swedenborg, he talked a lot about the symbolism in the Bible, and he said that the whole Bible has like a symbolic meaning to it, and that the story of Cain killing Abel, is this picture of faith killing love. Because if I say, let's say that I'm a Christian, for example, and I say, well, what makes me a Christian? Well, I'm a Christian because I went to church and I said I believe in Jesus, and that's what matters. In my day-to-day life, I'm rude, I'm cruel to people, I do all kinds of terrible things, but I'm a Christian because, I go to church and I say that I believe in Jesus. That kills religion in yourself, because it no longer is a tool to look to God. You no longer recognize God, because God is love. And if you think I know God because I go and say these things, but also it kills it to the rest of the human race. How many people don't like Christianity now because of a bunch of people that act like that, or throughout history it's done all these terrible things? It's because you got this faith that has killed the love, and now it doesn't resemble at all who God actually is, which God is love and wisdom, but love is the primary thing.
Yeah, and there's really like you already said, like the Bible unfortunately is really flawed in some major issues, like when I ask God, and everybody can do it, you can push pause, yeah, if you like to inquire for yourself.
We'll wait for you. Yep.
Yeah, we'll wait. And when I asked God, did you sacrifice your son in order to forgive our sins? And God replied, no, I would never. Why would I need to do this? I'm all powerful, mighty. I don't need to sacrifice my son. This is complete nonsense.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
And I asked, is there anything you haven't forgiven already? Even before the death of Jesus Christ? No, there's nothing. So the game is actually to realize that this is already the case. God, there's nothing God holds against me. And like if I ask God, is there anything I could ever do to lose your love? God will say no. No. You cannot do it. You're not that powerful. You're dreaming. If you think you can do anything, even if you're a serial killer, God would say, I'm sorry, I still love you.
Yeah.
You're dreaming that you're so powerful. No, you can't. So the game is then, what I have people do is like, okay, God, it seems that I'm the one who is mistaken here. So the problem seems to be that I just cannot imagine how vast your love must be. It's completely beyond what I can imagine. So please show me. And this is what we do. We meditate on this. Yeah? Let's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour. Meditate just on this. God, show me how big is your love? Because it's just beyond. Show me, what does it really mean that you have already forgiven everything? Because I just cannot wrap my mind around this. I just do minor mistakes.
Yeah.
And I cannot forgive, and also other people, their mistakes, their faults, I cannot forgive them. I had one woman once who had been doing Ho'oponopono and tipping method, the 13 steps and all kinds of things, and she did the Course in Miracles, and she never managed to forgive her stepmother. And so then I asked her, okay, ask God for help. God, it seems impossible to me to forgive my stepmother. How difficult is it for you? And then for me, what's so helpful to always feel this contrast, it's mind-blowing to feel, oh my God, what seems impossible to me, it's nothing. It's nothing for God. And a second later, she said, it's gone. All the guilt, all the anger, everything, it's just gone. And she sat there like, oh my God, it's like it's never been there even. Just a dream.
Yeah. And
then I was punishing myself because I was not able to forgive her. And now with God's help, it's just gone. 30 years, no kidding. And then some people say, Marc, I thank you so much. I said, it's nothing to do with me. it's all gratefulness belongs to God. Nothing to do with Marc.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with Swedenborg. Nothing to do with Curtis. Nothing to do.
Yeah.
So, it's so amazing. This contrast.
Yeah. My yoke is easy and my burden is light.
Wow.
It's got to be that, if God is all powerful and all good, it's got to be that he can solve problems pretty easily. As soon as something switches, like I guess with her, it was just asking, will you take care of this thing? And then you got her to the right spot, and somehow, because God probably wanted her, I would think, to be free of that burden for a long, long time. But somehow it arranged that moment to, like, all right, this is when we're gonna get it done.
This is what I keep telling people. If we think we have to carry our burden, or we have to carry our cross, we will end up on the cross, because this is what we believe. And like this was a perfect example. Like, if we stop believing that we have to carry this burden, then God will just take it away like nothing.
When you were mentioning the love of God and the forgiveness, so in Swedenborg's book, True Christianity, I don't have it memorized, but he says, from these few points, you can see how insane it is when people teach that God can rage against anyone, avenge wrongs, punish anyone, throw anyone into hell. People are even more insane if they teach this to other people. In reality, God cannot be angry with us or even look at us with a frown.
Yeah.
That to do so would be contrary to love, which is contrary to his essence.
It's so true. It's the same what I hear when I talk, when this voice talks to me or explains everything to me. It's the same. Of course, it has to be.
It's not what love is. If you think about, like, who are the human beings that inspire people the most? You think of like Gandhi or something. Where what's inspiring about Gandhi? I don't even know that much about him, but my sense is that, well, there was this thing happening where his country was being occupied, but he used this loving, nonviolent way and he said that the British must leave as friends. I forgive them. And everyone's like, that's so amazing. How would God not be that times a million? How would it be that God is going to be, that Gandhi can do that and forgive people, but God is vengeful and angry? It's an insulting picture of God. And if you think about the best parent in the world, if you just can imagine the best parent in the world saying, and their kid doing a bunch of stuff that's bad, and it's like, do you still love me? And what's the parent going to say? They're going to say, I love you. I still love you, and even though you've done these things. So how is God not going to be that times a million?
Right. I use exactly the same analogy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. How? Perfect.
So yeah, it's well, another thing that was really important to Swedenborg and that draws me to him is he was saying that you can't have matters of faith. You have to be able to think about them, and they have to make sense to you. So, like you're saying, God, did you sacrifice your son to pay for our sins? If you just think about that, it doesn't make sense. It's not how human beings work. I could never go, if we're in the image and likeness of God, it would never be that I was mad at some group of people, and so I punished my son, and now I feel bad. It just is a non sequitur. It's just religion. It doesn't make any sense. So to Swedenborg, you can never really make a truth a part of you unless you love it. And you can never love something unless you can first examine it on your own to see, do I really believe this thing? Is it really good? Is this connecting me to God? That's the nature of love. You have to have the freedom to examine things. So all religious, we can't take religious things because someone told you that they're true. You can maybe when you're a kid, your parents can tell you, like, you gotta share. Don't do that. No, you can't talk to this person like that. That's fine. But as you get older, any religion you grow up with, it can't really be a part of who you are until you can examine it for yourself and see if you really believe it. So that's why so many people go on these journeys. They leave behind what their faith of their childhood. That's the only way you can really, you can't connect with God unless there's some element of love there. And you can't love someone who forces you to be around them. So you have to, like, eventually, it sounds like the people you're talking to, they get to a place where they're reaching out and saying, can you help me with this in freedom out of love? I think that's the magic. I think it's the permission that we give, the allowing for God to come in and change the life.
Yeah. Perfect. So how much would you say you incorporate all this wisdom? Because my sense is that you pretty much embody a whole lot of this, like I can really feel it, that you have not just studied his teaching, but you have been so enthused and so passionate about it that it's really also become your truth, your reality.
Yes, I try my best to do it. Before I was ever talking about Swedenborg to people, I was just using it for myself to try to help get me out. I had a lot of depression and anxiety and all kinds of things that were weighing me down. So before I ever was talking about Swedenborg to people, I was just using it on myself. And again, like, you're right. I don't care about Swedenborg. The only reason I like Swedenborg is that's where I find God, is in those.
That's your gate. Your gate.
Yeah. So that's my gate. So to me, it started with believing these things and trying to live my life from them, finding the connection to God in there. And so I try to live it as much as I can. It's like you go in cycles. Sometimes I'm feeling really spiritual and like, oh yeah, I get this. I can kind of tell, I can feel God, and go. And some other days it's not working so great, but I try to continue to progress. Again, I can really tell that it's not up to me, because there'll be times when I was younger, I would think that if I just think about these concepts all day and try to act on them, I can really transform myself but now I can see that there's times when I'm trying my hardest, but I just feel like I'm getting less and less spiritual over the days. And then I don't do anything and suddenly I'm back in that flow. So I really do think, God's got a plan. He's working me through it. But so I'm not doing any of this on my own power, but I do try to, every day I'm trying to live by this stuff as much as I can. It's not just a YouTube hobby for me. It's like my lifeline. It's how my life makes sense, and how I can navigate life is through these teachings. Like, I really love them. And even if I didn't have any YouTube channel, I'd still be reading those books all the time. Because again, that's my gate. And whenever you can find a gate to the Lord, that somebody once asked me, how do you stay interested in Swedenborg? How do you stay interested? And I was like, well, if you fell off of a boat, you would be pretty interested in learning how to swim, right? So that's what it's like for me, that these ideas and teachings are what allow me to keep my head above water in life. And so I can't stay away from them. So I go after them as much as I can.
Yeah, and I feel it's really a genuine teaching. It's really, and also the way he puts many things, it's really special in some way, It's like, it's never been put that way before. It's the same and still it's different. And, that's also my experience, that many people have to hear, also for myself, we have to hear the truth from different angles until at some point it clicks and, now I get it. Yes. All the time I tried to understand. I thought I got it, but I actually, to be honest, I didn't. And then when I hear it from a different angle, suddenly it clicks. And for me, Swedenborg is a precious angle,
Yeah.
Yes, I totally know that feeling. Even within Swedenborg, there are things of his that I used to read and think, I don't really get, that's not really that important to me. And then later I suddenly, that's what that's talking about. And usually because of some other life experiences or something that get me to understand it. So absolutely, yes, you can have read something a lot and you hear the words and you understand it, but you're absolutely right that it's got to click. It comes to life. Something can come to life suddenly,
Life, yeah.
and then it's real. I remember the first time with Swedenborg back when I was reading him when I was 18 or 19, and I remember when I first realized, oh, this is real. Like, this is talking about what happens in my mind. This is not just some religious concepts. And I think that I have a few of those. I understand a few things well, but I feel like I'm just beginning. Like I barely get any of it, and even knowing the concepts is different than living by them. So I feel like I'm just starting out. Like I'm just starting out knowing how to, or this process that God is trying to lead us all through.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about you, that you're so humble.
Well, when I came by it honestly, like like I've had enough experience of like, I can't do this. I need help. I do think one thing about one thing Swedenborg says is that we grow. One of the ways in which we grow is through what he called spiritual crises or times of trial. That it's kind of like, like if your body gets sick, if you've got some kind of bacteria in you, your body will go into a fever where it's heating up so that the immune system can work better and get those invaders out. And during the fever, feels terrible, you are miserable, and you want it to end. But then when it's over, that stuff is gone. There's sort of like spiritual crises are sort of like fevers for the spirit. There's times when life just pushes you past what you feel like you can do, and suddenly you have to rely on God. He's like, okay, I need help. And I feel like I've had enough of those that's really helped me get into it, because I can, when I'm young and everything's working fine, it's like, oh yeah, I believe in God, but I don't really need that stuff. I'm doing fine here. But when I come across, I can't do this. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get through this. I don't know how to get past this. That's to me when the teachings really become real. And I think I've just had enough of those times when it's like, I can't handle life. I can barely do this thing. That's what gets me so interested in and connected and into this, is that I've just needed so much help in my life that pushes me forward.
Yeah, for me the same. I had really deep depression and panic attacks and all kinds of things. And like at some point, I realized that I could talk myself into everything, to believe anything, but it's just nonsense. It just felt empty, meaningless. And yeah, but what I find important, and why I also see the danger, is that many people, especially in Christianity, they think that suffering and pain and disease and everything, then that it's important and that it's the path to God. And when I ask God, what's the path, what's the way to you, God's reply is, like blissfulness, love, happiness. And then I ask, okay, God, so where is there so much suffering? And so what's the value in the suffering? And God replied, the only value in suffering is to realize that it has no value. And it's another paradox, to see that the suffering is of my own making. We're not talking about body pain, if I hurt my knee or my arm or whatever, or if I'm getting older, of course, there will be some pains in my body and so on. But we're talking about suffering, we're talking about what we went through, this depression and hopelessness and panic attacks and fear and so on. So, and I don't mean to say, to people, that, how to say, I feel for them. I feel with everybody who's suffering and who's in pain and so on. Of course, like God. But to not want to get anything out of the suffering, not to think this is the way to God.
Yes.
And this, in Christianity, many people thought so for hundreds of years. Like, I have to renounce um, the world, you know, I have celibacy and so on
Yeah.
and so on. And if I ask God, what's your idea? What do you think of celibacy? And, you know, it's like, it's nonsense, you know? The only thing that makes sense, you know, is that God has to be the most important thing.
Yeah.
That's the point. Not the
Yep.
celibacy, not renouncing the world or anything.
No. That's
Would
that's
you agree?
God has.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Again, Swedenborg talked a lot about how people think that you have to renounce the world and renounce joy. That's not what life is about. I think you put it very well. God has to be the most important thing. What you need to do is live in the world, do good things, but with that idea that God is the most important thing, and having that guide your life. I mean, even after Swedenborg was getting all these spiritual revelations and everything, well, one of the last things he ever wrote was a treatise on the currency in Sweden and how what they could do to avoid inflation or something. Like, to him, that still mattered. Like, what goes on in the world, trying to make a good society for human beings, it still means something. You can do that with God being the most important thing inside of that. Denying yourself pleasure doesn't do anything. I would say the only time that matters is if I get pleasure in you mentioned serial killers a few times. If I really want to kill people and I feel like that would feel great, maybe I need to deny myself that pleasure. Like, let's not do that. But as far as like, I'm not gonna have fun, I'm not gonna listen to music, I'm gonna be celibate, I'm not gonna have sex. That does not do it. That does not do it, because that's the only pleasure we need to renounce is the pleasure in harming other people. We need to say, I'm not going to engage in that. But everything else, it just needs to not be more important than what's good and true.
Right. Yeah, and still to be honest and say, okay, I'm just human, you know, I feel revengeful, I feel hate, whatever, and so on. I feel like hurting someone. God, do you feel the same way? You know, I love this. I'm constantly working with this metaphor that we're created in the image of God, right? And I'm constantly working with that. You know, like, do you feel revengeful, God? And so, okay, I cannot imagine how to rid myself of this hate and,
Yeah.
you know, of all this. You know, it's so strong. Can you show me? Can you help me? Because I cannot do it. It's you know, it's always the same actually.
Mhm.
And it works. It works so perfectly. It's amazing. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
So great talking to you, Curtis.
Thank you, Marc. This was so fun, and I've loved getting to hear your techniques you're using, and I will keep that with me of sort of looking for that steady voice of God. And I love what you just said about being in the image of God. So, yeah, if I'm looking at myself and there's some negative thing I have right now, is God like that? Would God be like that? And if not, can you help me be more like you? I love that. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I will also put a link to your YouTube channel because I really feel it's so precious. And yeah, I'm really happy I was led to your YouTube channel. And yeah, let's stay in touch.
Very good, Marc. Yeah, I'd love to chat again sometime.
Thank you very much.